Thank you, Congressman, again. I do appreciate you coming here today and hearing from us. Something relatively new, kind of changed a little bit to more international. Yesterday, our president met with Prime Minister May. Kind of very symbolic meeting. We have a lot of close ties to England through our entire history. Not to bore everyone with a history lesson, one reason our country was founded was due to religious persecution. Yesterday President Trump signed an executive order pretty much, without saying it directly, banned Muslims from 7 countries from entering this country. First lawsuit was filed this morning already. And I want to know, you were very instrumental in the Patriot Act, and I know you put country first. You want our country to be safe, but at the same time, part of that executive order also stated that, minority religions, i.e. Christianity, would get precedent for coming into this country from these 7 countries versus Muslims. I just want to know your opinion on that. I mean, do you believe that our president, and it's in his authority, you can't deny that one bit, should be limiting people into this country for 90 days, and then who knows, that'll get extended, I'm sure, based solely on religion?
Well, the answer to that question is no, and granted that the 7 countries that are in the executive order are primarily Muslim countries. We do need to have a pause to properly vet people who may come in and may be moles from ISIL or Al-Qaeda that come in to harm us. And Europe has found out that there are moles and people who come in the hard way. So, the thing is you got to get as close to 100% as possible, because many of these terrorist strikes that have occurred in Europe have been as a result of lone wolf terrorist organizations. Some have been somewhat coordinated, but not all of them. The majority of them have not been coordinated. And Obama had a pause from bringing people in from certain countries, as did George W. Bush immediately after 9/11. So, this is something that is not unheard of, and it is not permanent. Now, having said that, the refugee definition, which we have had since the UN passed one in 1951, says that a refugee is a person who has a well-founded fear of religious or political persecution if they return home. It specifically excludes economic migrants. So there is a genocide going on in the ISIS-controlled area of Syrian Christians on that. And to close the door to those against whom a genocide is being committed, I think is wrong, because they are people, who are being killed, as a result of their Christian faith. And in the areas that are controlled by the Assad regime, as big a thug as I think he is, Assad is a member of a religious minority, an Islamic religious minority, and he protected other religious minorities, including Christians and Jews, during his rule in Syria. So, I think the exception, is something that is in the best conditions of our country. It is in compliance with the UN definition of refugee, which has now been around for 65 years. But anybody who is claiming refugee status because they happen to be a Syrian Christian is going to be vetted in exactly the same way as somebody coming out of that area, once we get the vetting thing, who is not Christian, whether they're Muslim or whether they're unbelievers. I hope that answers your question.
No, yeah, it did. I mean, the thing I struggled with was the fact that, again, the precedent was set by presidents years ago about banning people from countries. It was a little kind of side note of saying, well, if you're a minority religion, we're going to give you priority, and therefore more or less allow you to come into the country.
Well,
versus...
and in response, I can say, both when Obama signed his pause and when George W. Bush signed his pause, there was not a genocide that was going on in the countries that ended up having their admissions frozen. Now there clearly is. The Pope himself, has said that there is a genocide being waged against Syrian Christians, and it's not just Catholics, but it's Orthodox Christians as well. Last one is